it's okay to completely mess up and to be afraid, and it's okay to doubt, and it's okay to mess up big time. I messed up. Everyone messed up big time in their lives. So yeah, that's the thing that's just important to carry out, I feel like. So my name is Gijs. I'm from the Dutch team, recurve shooter, and I started archery at the age of 12. It was a book, a kid's book. That was the main character was an archer. I started to play around with a wooden bow I found in the barn at home. I started playing around and kind of rolled into it. I was the only kid from my town who did archery, and that was in 2012. And in 2014, I joined a regional selection with some talents, and I apparently had some talent. And then in 2015, I got selected for my first international competition, which was the World Youth Championships here in Yankton at the time. And that was really cool. And then that motivated me so much that I moved to the National Training Center, Papendal in the Netherlands, and started living there and really train the whole day and go to school sometimes too. Well, I should say go to school and train, but it was the other way around, obviously, as a kid. And I've been training there for 5 years now, and that led up to the Olympics this year, which was super cool. So Steve, my teammate, was shooting RamRods, and you guys at the time had quite a good program for sponsorship for athletes who aren't at the top. At all companies, they sponsor people who are at the top and top athletes, but your company was also sponsoring people who were up and coming, and that kind of got me in contact with you guys. And I believe the first message I got back from you was, it wasn't just, here are some stabilizers, we hope you like them, but it was really okay, so we have a company in archery and want to promote archery, and if you have any ideas about anything, if it's shirts, if it's stabilizers, or if it's anything else at all, just let us know, and we like to have a program together and grow together. And that really popped out, and that's really unique in the archery world, I think, and that's what I really liked.
Did you start off with ultras, or what stabilizers did you try?
No, I first tried the normal Matterhorns from Steve, the classic, the classic Matterhorns, because I was shooting 47 pounds at the time, so it was enough to get to the Matterhorns. And I shot quite a lot of weight to my stabilizers too already. So, and then last year, I think I moved to the Factors, because they're a little softer. And I tried a bunch of stabilizers, from all companies, and the Factors were really, really nice. And that just gives a really nice soft feel. I don't like a too hard feel. The Matterhorns give me a really crisp feel, and kind of feels more, maybe it sounds weird, but Korean kind of, it works really well. But I like my bow to vibrate a little bit more, and the ultras are too soft for me. But the Factors give a nice, I don't know, they have something. There's give some soul to the bow, and it feels like that. Yeah, and I like to have my stabilizers a bit downwards, so I don't like them straight. I like them downwards, so that smooths my aiming pattern really nicely.
To add on to that a little bit, do you have any particular philosophy or feeling that you're looking for when you set up a bow or set up your stabilizers?
Yeah, so I don't like a bow that aims too well. And for indoors, actually for indoors, I take my extender out. So the bow, all the weight shifts kind of back, and I really like how it just calms down and eases out in the middle kind of. And when it's in the middle with your sight, you won't get off the middle anymore. But it will make my technique at least a bit more lazy. I'll shoot a bit more lazy. And when you have short stabilizers that are straight, it will be a bit more aggressive and it will aim a bit less, but it will make you able kind of to shoot faster, I feel like. And I feel like my technique is kind of lazy, but I would like to shoot faster. So I kind of find some middle way in that. And for this weather, for example, I think it's windy out there. I think a really straight setup is actually really nice because you can't aim anyways. So aiming doesn't work anyways. So it's nice to have like short stabilizers that are like straight, I think, but I'm not going to change it anyways right now. So yeah, there's just like a kind of like a way in the middle that's, you know, don't want it to be too lazy, but don't want it to be too aggressive. So I'm somewhere in the middle.
So the aiming pattern and the speed at which you kind of settle and then can execute is kind of the gist of what you're looking for.
Yeah, it's like the feeling with it. So when a bow that aims really well, obviously feels really, really good, but I feel like I need to force the bow into its like way to the middle. It's like, well, archery is not about where you aim, but like about that moment of releasing. And I feel like when it aims really well, I have to force my bow into that, like really force it. And when the stabilizers are like more straight and it's more aggressive, I don't have to force it at all, but that will make it a bit less accurate, I feel like. So I try to be there in the middle, like have a relaxed setup, but also still have it accurate and don't be too aggressive.
What is it that you're noticing in your setup leading up to a competition where you know I found the right setup in overall system, that I don't need to change anything else and I feel confident with this and we're not touching it anymore?
Yeah. For me, it's really when I'm shooting my bow, there's a point where it clicks. And I know that point is going to be there because, you know, when I know I'm shooting good, I know that point is going to be there. And normally, like, I shoot my bow before the season and I know that it's good. And then throughout the season, actually a couple of weeks ago, my limb broke. After the Olympics, my limb broke. And so I've been shooting like a bit last weeks. I felt like there was something, like the arrow sometimes would go into the 9 where I was like, this gotta be a 10, like this was a shot for a 10. And then it's just the experience of playing around. You have to kind of feel what you have to play around with. And I can just kind of feel when I'm getting closer to a bow that clicks. And it's just the arrows that are shot well, they gotta be in the middle. And if they're not shot well, then they shouldn't be in the middle, obviously, but I kind of have to tell when I release where the arrow is going to land. And the more accurate that is, the better my bow has it, like the better the tune is. It's kind of like that, it's a feeling. So I just have to say like out loud to my coach, basically, where the arrow is going to hit. And as long as I can do that for a couple ends, then the bow is good. And when I can't do that, and I will say that's a right 9, and the coach say no, that's a high 9, then there's something off.
It's a question that we've liked asking people because this starts to go from equipment into like confidence, into like mindset about things. And we have a lot of, ourselves and a lot of other athletes, I think, are trying to find that balance between kind of trusting yourself and trusting your equipment and knowing, was that me or that the equipment? And it sounds to me like you're trying to find a bow that is helping you. Is taking what you're already trying to do and what you know how to do pretty well and making it predictable, making it a little bit forgiving, so muting the variations a little bit. But then sometimes also you still have some struggles maybe with technique or execution that you have to make a call maybe between, is something with the bow, is it with me, and how do I decide?
That was the hard part of like last week's, because I was coming after the Olympics and everyone goes into like, over the Olympics and you have this kind of like adrenaline hangover and you're all relaxed, and then suddenly it didn't work anymore, and then I really thought it was me. It was me too, because I also was kind of like too laid back. But yeah, there's gotta be a point where you're like, okay, I'm doing it well, but the bow is not doing it well, or I'm not doing it well and the bow is doing well. So yeah, it's a really common thing in archery and in sports in general, that people tend to look into the equipment more than into themselves. But yeah, you gotta be honest to yourself. So if you shoot a bad shot, it's gotta be in the 8. Like, you just gotta be honest about that. It's not like a problem. Just be honest that you shot an 8. And as long as, mentally or your mindset is like right about that, I feel like you can tune a bow really, really well.
Yeah. And like you mentioned earlier, there's some shots where you say that's as good as I can shoot it.
Yeah.
And if that's not in the 10, we got a problem here.
Yeah. But exactly. Yeah. Everyone knows that feeling, right? It's the most amazing feeling ever. Yeah.
Yeah. were there one or a few moments in your life where you felt like you wanted to really commit a lot more, or even your full life and work to archery?
Well, for me, I've always like dreamed of being like a full-time athlete, and well, I started like archery quite late, I feel like, and there's not really been a moment where I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, there's not been like a dip or something. Like, obviously, the first years you don't actually dare to dream of that you can be like a full-time archer. But the moment I moved to the training center in 2016, obviously that was one of the first moments where I could like train a lot, and everything around me was like motivating me. So that was where I felt like, okay, I can actually like, I have the chance to get everything out of this that I can get out of it. And then in 2020, when everyone got a forced break of everything, I kind of started thinking about like, okay, so how do I view my future? I've for the past 4 years, I've been training. Everyone told me how to train, and I actually got the chance to think about my own like my own strategy kind of. And that helped me a lot. And that was a moment where I felt like my commitment went up, because I kind of made my career my thing, instead of that everyone told me what I was, what I had to do. So that was, beginning 2020, start of the pandemic, was where I kind of took everything into my own hands and really like took my own responsibility in my career, kind of, I feel like. And that really helped me also to get the pressure of competitions, because I felt like it was just my responsibility and not the responsibility of others. So that was really like a changing moment for me.
So on that path from starting in 2012 to making your first Olympic team, obviously there's going to be a lot of up and downs, from start to finish. What would you say is like a standout challenge that you've had to face? And then what did you learn about yourself in overcoming that to move forward?
That's a good one. I think my, what is that called in English? Like failure, like afraid to fail, like that mental thing that you're just like, you're just afraid to fail. And when you go to a competition, it's really not fun actually. Like, you go there because you force yourself into a situation where you have to go. I've had that for like the first years of my career. Like, I was really putting the pressure on for myself. And that was like a big struggle, just every time like go to a competition and like just feel the fear of not doing well. And well, everyone has that. Like, obviously everyone kind of has some kind of fear before a competition. But one of those things, like taking responsibility for my own career, and working with a psychologist who really showed me that it's actually fun. It's like a fun game to do. Like, it's quite fun to see who does like the best groups in archery, and really understanding that process of how my mind works. That's been a quite long path, but really getting over that bump, like defeating the fear of competitions. That's like it made archery way more fun, and it made competitions way more fun. And right now I'm just enjoying competition so much, like I just can't sleep of enjoyment instead of can't sleep of fear. And that's something I changed, and that was really hard to do, because you have to put a lot of effort and you have to really open up to yourself and to people you don't want to open up maybe, because you want to seem like a tough guy. But that taught me so much just in life, and it just really helped me.
Nice here. Will we get the 12-10 from Gijs now and the gold medal? Well, it does indeed look like it is 12 10s and 4 perfect scores for Gijs Broeksma, the 21-year-old. He's looking pretty confident.
So that whole process, that's kind of the thing that really made me who I am right now, I think.
I like that, and I like the kind of, you described it wasn't an easy process. You had to have people who helped you, as well as a little bit of advice in there for people who might be struggling with the same thing, where for a variety of reasons they have a lot of pressure on themselves, or putting it or focusing on it, and then, but if you can face that and try and understand it, break it apart, and then kind of rebuild it, it can be liberating and really enjoyable.
Yeah, it's just like, it's like investing effort. Like, it's the perfect example of investing effort and getting so much back. And that's, yeah, it really feels like that. It felt like I invested, I made a choice to improve it, and I invested, and then I got so much back for it.
What are one or maybe a couple different key motivating things that you think about either in earlier stages of your career or now that you hold on to that feel like they drive you and they motivate you to train every day and to compete?
That's a really, really good one. The first thing is definitely my teammates, because when I'm at like the training center, it's so easy to go out and train because we wake up and, well, we don't have breakfast together, but I have breakfast and we just go to the range and shoot, and it's like just something and it feels like a group of friends kind of, even though we're like put together from like all parts of the country. Everyone took us together and kind of forced us into like the same situation, but we got really good friends and we just go out there and shoot, and that's just quite relaxed, like, and then the joy of competitions, like the rush of winning, but just the adrenaline rush of the competition itself, like that's something you've got to like. And, well, like I said before, I started to like that, and those two combined like makes a situation in my everyday life where I can go train for like that rush of a competition, and do that in a setting where it's super relaxed to train and basically go out and play with my friends. And that's like really, I think, unique situation where it just makes it fun. And I've got to admit, when I'm back at my parents' home, where I started archery and I have like a 70 meters range there, it's way harder to go train because I'll be there alone, and it's really nice to shoot 100 arrows or so, just alone and focused. But after 100 arrows, I'm like, I lost my focus. My attention span is not that good, and then I just like to go inside again and chill with my brother, for example. But when I'm just with my teammates and everyone motivates each other, it's so easy to shoot 300 or 400 hours a day. It just goes by in a blink, and everyone motivates each other. Everyone talks about archery all the time, and you find out, even though we've been together for 5 years right now, we still find out stuff together about archery, and that's just so cool. Yeah, those are the two things: competitions and my friends that motivate me to do archery.
I think Joe and I can both relate to that a lot, coming from our Olympic training center, where the situation wasn't always fun, and sometimes we didn't feel like shooting, but when you know you're going to go shoot with a bunch of your friends and they're almost like brothers in a way, it makes it a lot more bearable to go out there and say, okay, let's get it done, let's shoot, let's get better.
Exactly, like let's get it done. That's like a phrase that's like, everyone says to each other, like, let's get it done, let's do it. And then after that you can like feel good about it in like a collective way. And that's really nice. And then you go to the pool and swim together and do something fun, because archery sucks at some days it sucks a bit, but if you do it together, then that makes it much, much better.
I will say too that I think I liked the accomplishment for myself, but I enjoyed the team aspect more.
Yeah.
And even I think maybe where Josh and I even like working together with this company is because it's kind of a partnership and a team.
I get that, yeah.
I don't know if I could stick with this for a long time without, just by myself.
Yeah,
at home trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it's like, for archery, that's my personal example. Yeah, like I enjoy the team competition way more because you can let that emotion out and you can like put your energy into others, and that will like give some whole new experience of archery, instead of trying to put your emotions down, which you are trying in the individual competition. So that's like, it's so nice to share something with people, because that's what humans are. I feel like we like to share experiences, and I completely get it. Yeah.
So throughout your career as an athlete, as someone who is in the public eye, very much so, being at the Olympic Games now and all these international competitions, what is it you hope other people learn from watching you shoot as kind of a message to the world of, here's me as an athlete?
The thing that in the Olympics, that was actually my first real team competition with on the big stage, because I always kind of been the fourth guy in the team and kind of worked myself into the the third position is this year. But I really try to be there for my teammates and try to what I said, put my energy into my teammates. And I heard from a lot of people that they could really see how our team was carrying each other in the Olympics, and that was really kind of heartwarming to hear. And the thing I would like to carry out is archery actually is a team sport, and you can accomplish so much more if you do it together. Because if you're alone and you have struggles, you're not gonna figure it out, because you're gonna go down that rabbit hole. It's gonna be hard to fix your problems. If you have a team, you can talk about it and you can make each other better. And I really believe, and I feel like our whole team believes, that archery is a team sport. So I really try to carry that out, that the team event in archery is also so much more fun to watch than the individual event in my eyes. So I really like to carry out that archery is a team sport and not the old-fashioned individual sport like it maybe was back in the day, but right now it feels like a team sport.
Experienced member of the team shot a perfect match. He's up against Steve Weiler, the reigning European champion.
You've done tons of interviews, you've talked to a bunch of people, you probably give advice and coach a lot of people. But what is something that, at least in an interview setting or from a media standpoint, you haven't been asked that you think is valuable or important in a way that maybe people don't understand as well?
So in Tokyo, at the Olympics, you had this wall with all messages from athletes to kids. So they would send that message back to the schools, because all the kids said really sweet stuff, try your best and all that stuff. And I feel like every interview always talks about how did you win this, or how was this to win this, and it always talks about the good stuff. But I also think that with the thing I wrote on that paper that I wrote to the kids is it's okay to completely mess up and to be afraid. That's what circles back to the first thing I said. I feel like every athlete has had such a hard time with some things and regret some things in their career, but all interviews always talk about the positive stuff, you won this and stuff. But yeah, the thing I would have liked to hear back in the day, from the people who I was watching, because you always watch the big guys, it's that I never thought I would be good at archery to a extent that I really didn't think you have this cliche I never thought I would do this, but I really thought I wasn't suitable for the job. I always looked at other people that said I had a tough youth and made me stronger, and I just couldn't relate to that a lot of things, and that made me doubtful in a sense. But once I started to discover that the person who I am has specific features that can contribute to a professional team, I started to develop those features. I'm a team player, and I started to develop my team playing abilities. So yeah, I would say to people who are starting archery and trying to become good, find your specific your selling point. You guys need to find a selling point too, because otherwise you won't make it in the with all the other stabilizers around. And yeah, I would say that's something important to find for yourself. Find your selling point and improve that, focus on that. And it's okay to doubt, and it's okay to mess up big time. I messed up, everyone messed up big time in their lives. So yeah, that's the thing that's just important to carry out, I feel like.
It definitely seems like a lot of athletes, and maybe archers too, they want to communicate strength, they want to communicate resiliency and dependability and consistency. So I think sometimes we kind of go inside ourselves and build this kind of wall of what we don't want to show too much vulnerability. And I think that can be useful sometimes in competition, but in the larger sense, like you said, when you're talking about being an inspiration to people, or for kids who are growing up who might not feel as confident as they think people are in the Olympics or in other things, they they might actually take more from that in seeing that it's okay to fail, it's okay to make mistakes, that everybody does. We just tried not to focus on it as much as the successes, and that's a normal part of being a person, and that can be really empowering.
Yeah, exactly. It's empowering, and I feel like vulnerability actually is empowering, because I feel like I could like sit here and talk about how well I feel and all that stuff, and right now I feel pretty fucking awesome because it's really awesome out here. But I feel like the vulnerability of admitting that I feel bad sometimes and everyone feels bad sometimes, I feel like that's way more powerful than trying to build that wall that's all tough and cool. So yeah, that's right. Yeah.